6 July. Dearest Suzie, I'm sorry that I haven't written sooner, but this has been a long, hard week. I'm sure you must have heard about it. The past day has already been 36 hours long. We went out yesterday at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we were on duty till 10 o'clock this morning. It is noon now. We've had time to eat and clean up, and we have to get back out at 4 o'clock this afternoon. With all the trouble they are having here, they told us we couldn't go back to Vinh Long, so we have been extended for 30 days. We are leaving here, though. We are going to stay at Quang Ngai for the next 30 days. That will be worse yet. We haven't had any mail since payday, and I don't know when we are going to get any. I hope you're getting my letters faster than I get yours. But I don't know what to do about Charlie. Bud Bender has been taking care of him this month, so I guess he will keep him for another month. Well, there's one good thing about it. Time flies up here, and when we do get back to Vinh Long, I will be so short that all I'll do is get ready to go home. Take care of yourself. I love you very much. Kiss the boys for me and say hello to everyone. All my love. Bill. In the first few days of 1965, in July, the Vietnam War began to change shape. Fast. What had long been framed in Washington as a limited engagement was becoming something far larger, with more boots on the ground, more nations involved, and a rising cost in lives. Back in Washington, one man was still trying to slow things down. On July 1st, Undersecretary of State George Ball sent a memo to President Johnson. In it, he warned that the Viet Cong, while supported by the North, were largely an indigenous movement, and that what the U.S. was calling a Cold War conflict was in truth a civil war. Ball was in the minority, and his dissent didn't change the course of action. But it's one of those moments that reads differently in hindsight, especially as that same week, U.S. troop numbers in combat operations were growing, almost daily. In Australia, July 1st marked the beginning of conscript training for Vietnam. Over 800,000 young men would register for national service during the war. For America's allies, too, the war was no longer theoretical. Meanwhile, the fighting in Vietnam was escalating quickly. That same day, a Viet Cong mortar and sapper attack hit Da Nang Air Base, destroying multiple American aircraft, which is something Popi mentions in a previous letter. South Vietnamese ARVN forces were stretched thin. In Tua Tien province, they responded to a Viet Cong attack and managed to push the attackers back, but casualties were mounting. In the Mekong Delta, an operation by the ARVN 21st Division led to the deaths of over 200 Viet Cong fighters. The next day, the VC counterattacked at Ba Giai. They rolled artillery straight up to the fort's perimeter and overran the position before air support could arrive. The ARVN lost more than 100 men. The air war was changing too. On July 4th, the Navy's A-6 intruder jet flew its first combat mission from the USS Independence, ushering in a new chapter of round-the-clock bombing runs. While the U.S. was escalating, so was the Soviet Union. On July 6, Moscow approved the deployment of 2,500 military instructors to North Vietnam. Their mission? Train the North Vietnamese forces to operate surface-to-air missiles, directly targeting American aircraft. Between July 6th and 9th, the U.S. 173rd Airborne Brigade swept through War Zone D alongside ARVN and Australian troops. The official tally reported dozens of Viet Cong killed and villages destroyed, but just a few days later, the New York Times began questioning how those body counts were calculated, pointing out the growing reliance on aerial estimates and the absence of physical confirmation. This period also brought losses that made headlines back home. Lieutenant Ronald Zinn, a West Point graduate and former Olympian, was killed in action in War Zone D while leading his platoon. His death underscored just how many of the young men being sent over there were athletes, students, and promising leaders, lost early in their lives. July 8th brought another turning point. Maxwell Taylor resigned as U.S. ambassador to South Vietnam. A longtime military advisor who had opposed sending in American ground troops, Taylor had lost that battle. He was replaced by Henry Cabot Lodge, Jr. That same day, the U.S. government formally created the Vietnam Service Medal, a quiet acknowledgement that the advisory phase of the war was long over. But the violence wasn't slowing down. Outside Dao Tiang, Viet Cong forces ambushed an ARVN column. Over 100 South Vietnamese soldiers were killed, along with 4 American advisors. Nearly 200 others went missing. And on July 10th, the air war made history. 2 American F-4C Phantom jets shot down a pair of North Vietnamese MiG-17s, the first confirmed jet victories of the war. All of this political turmoil, international escalation, mounting casualties, happened in less than 2 weeks. For the men on the ground, it likely felt like the pace of the war had quickened overnight. And for many families back home, July 1965 marked the first time the war felt inescapably real. The photo I chose for today appears to be somewhere that is not Vinh Long. It almost looks like it's in the mountains, perhaps taken where Popi is in this letter today. In the foreground, we see the pads that were used to create landing strips, and to the left, we see barrels of oil or gas. In the background is a crane, and possibly some radar or communications dishes behind the tree line. I'm Alex Lowy, and I hope you have enjoyed listening to this episode of Dearest Suzie, and receiving messages from the past that my Popi wrote exactly 60 years ago. I sincerely appreciate your time and interest. Please consider following the podcast on your preferred platform, and if you're enjoying it, I kindly ask that you take the time to rate the show and leave a review. Also, please follow the project on YouTube, X, and Instagram. All likes, comments, shares, and reviews will help grow the reach of this story. The links for these things should be in the description of this episode. Please feel free to email me at dearestsuziepodcast@gmail.com if you have anything you'd like to say. I'd love to chat or to hear about your stories as well. Thank you for listening, and God bless.